What is going on, everybody? Darth Morley here, and today we're going to be looking at some UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them. That's what we're going to be looking at. My subscriber, Masked Official, he asked me to do some UFO stuff, and honestly the whole reason I'm interested in the paranormal, the weird and the strange, is because of UFOs. So where I stand on the whole UFO, UAP topic is, I know there are machines, vehicles operating on this planet that are so much more advanced than anything I've ever seen that's human made, that they're almost indistinguishable from magic. You know, so I know those machines or vehicles exist because they demonstrated it to me in an undeniable fashion, but that's it. You know, that's all I can honestly say. Ultimately, I don't know what they are, where they come from, why, who made them, which theories are the right ones. I don't actually have any answers, but I like to speculate. I've spent my whole life looking for answers, and as the years have gone by, you realise that it could be any number of things, and it's likely got more than one answer. You know, it could be traditional ETs, that's what I used to think for sure, particularly when it first happened to me. I used to think it was definitely aliens that have come here from another planet, and it still might be. But it could be any number of other things as well, because when you start actually looking into the topic and you're actually searching genuinely for answers, one thing kind of leads on to another. I'm not one of these people that thinks the distances involved are too great, like they couldn't travel here, because I think that's incredibly small-minded thinking. I think some old fart probably said the same thing, stood on a beach somewhere looking out at the ocean when people had already, crossed those distances thousands of times already. I just think that any vehicle you would make that could cross those kinds of distances, the methods they would use to safely travel across space and time effectively, would make any vehicle or machine also a time machine effectively. So then you're into the time travel theories, and you start going down that rabbit hole, and you get to the the many worlds, the many timelines sort of theory, and then you're into the interdimensional theories. It could be any number of them. I don't personally know, but anyway, this intro has been far too long, so anyway, let's do this. Number 5. Okay, so this first clip is the Rod Dickinson 1998 Somerset UFO. This is a very good one, and I feel like it often goes under the radar.
In the southwest of England, just outside Somerset, there was another sighting. It was captured on videotape.
Got it. Got it.
Hey,
yeah, I think it's coming this way.
For the time period, this is excellent footage, really.
Is it? It is. That's amazing.
The UFO that you saw originally was spotted approximately about 200 yards to the left of the aerial mast, and I suppose it was probably at about 500 feet up. It was very low in the sky.
And this is a radio communications tower?
This is radio communications. They've got 3 military masts on there.
Now, you see, that's interesting. It's another reason why it's not just good footage of a UFO, but also it's an interesting location because it's near this communications tower, which does have military communications going through it. The sensitive information coming and going from this tower, effectively.
And it sends out, one is a navigational signal, which is used for aircraft.
Which,
the other two
interesting.
Are near the top. We're not quite sure, but there is a pulsed frequency that comes from them.
And I want you to pay attention to how this looks, and remember that for when we look at the number 1 clip today.
The actual UFO, from the time it was first seen by Rod Dickinson, who did the filming, it lasted approximately 12 minutes, so it was quite a long period of time for a daylight sighting to occur.
We took this tape to be analyzed by Lucasfilm's Special Effects Division,
Another reason why this is such a good clip is because even back then they actually took the time to go and get it analysed by a specialist, and a specialist from bloody Lucasfilm, no less, who had always been, top dogs when it comes to CGI and, filmmaking.
Light and Magic in San Rafael, California. Here we met with Bill George, an Academy Award-winning visual effects supervisor. Over the last 20 years, his special effects have been featured in films like Star Wars, The Phantom Menace.
The optical zoom certainly would
He analyzed this footage to determine its authenticity.
But there are several things that I see when the footage is running that tells me this was actually there when this was filmed. First of all, it's the shake. The shake. If you were to give me a background plate of just the sky and say, we want you to take this image of a flying saucer and match it in, that's something that's technically very difficult to do, because you would have to match, putting the two elements together, you would have to match the shake. Now, certainly we have computers that can track that, but this is all over the map. A couple other cues that tell me that this is actually there when it was being filmed was that it's going in and out of focus with the background, because the camera is trying to compensate and trying to focus. It's probably have some sort of autofocus. So the background is going in and out of focus along with the object. There are these dark things flying through frame, and if someone was to have to put that in there, they would have to composite it in behind the birds. It would be a technical problem.
Bill George
especially in 1998.
UFO, but he could confirm for us that the object was not added in later.
Given those clues,
it was genuinely there.
This object was there when this person was taping.
So there you go. That was the Rod Dickinson UFO, which I feel like goes under the radar a little bit because it's an older one, and by today's standards, it's not the best quality. But in 1998, that is phenomenal, and it's an interesting location, and they had it checked out by a Lucasfilm expert. I mean, what more do you want? And like I say, remember that one for when we get to the number 1 clip, because it looks almost the same. Number 4. Okay, this next clip is one that was filmed from a boat off the coast of Florida in 1994, I believe. Now, this is the one that I would say has the higher chance of having some other kind of explanation. I'd be more open to this one having some kind of other explanation. However, it's one of my favourites because there's just something a bit chilling about it. I looked really hard for the original raw footage. Couldn't find it anywhere. There's so many different uploads of this footage, and this was the version that was most complete, so this is the one we're going to watch. Location: USA, Florida, August 1994. Multiple UFOs with lights filmed from a boat.
Okay, I'm going to put this camcorder down.
There's another boat there. I wonder about that. Now, allegedly these guys are fishermen, which, they've got fishing rods and stuff. That would make sense. Beautiful ocean, beautiful ocean. And then what the hell is that, mate? Initially, you might think, oh, it's the sun. Is that the sun? Am I seeing a weird sort of mirage? But you watch the ocean, mate, you can see this, the light. Look, you see it reflected in the water around here, which, it's definitely something that's there. It's not CGI. And then this bit, like, look how this spread out, mate. All the Coast Guards. Now, you see, something that I've noticed about this clip, I've seen people go back and forth on this, because they're not clear exactly what he says. But he says something like, let's just have a listen again.
UFOs are the Coast Guard.
All the Coast Guards, right? I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but there's just something about the way that he obviously thinks they're UFOs, but the second option he went to was the Coast Guards, which would suggest to me that that was his primary concern. For some reason, he was concerned about Coast Guards. Maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into it, but it just seems to me that would be odd. He obviously does think they're UFOs because that's the first thing he said, but also he felt the need to bring up Coast Guards. Why would he be worried about Coast Guards? Are they really just fishing off the coast of Florida? You know, is it one of those areas where people like to go out in boats and pick up packages and things and bring them back, that kind of thing? Maybe they just were doing something they shouldn't have been in an area where these things were operating, and they decided to scare the living bejesus out of them. Possibly. That's, you know, just could be me reading too much into things, because I do that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lights we see there.
It's just...
Coming on, they were 7 lights.
It's just, they feel threatening to me. I've always felt this, you know, these things don't want me to be here. They're telling me to get the fuck out of here. That's what they're communicating. They're saying, go, piss off. We don't want you here.
They're keeping pace with us.
Yeah, you see, I've seen people say there are oil rigs, but they wouldn't be keeping pace if they were oil rigs, and oil rigs don't just randomly start spreading out. And I know people will say, oh, it's just a mirage or whatever. I don't buy it. For me, this is one of those that's always, you know, I've always felt it's quite legitimate. I mean, this is weird. Yeah, it's just something about that. I just don't buy that they're oil rigs. Like, that's not oil rigs, mate. There's something in the sky. And they weren't there initially. You know, these things... It looks like these things come out the water. That's what it looks like to me. Unfortunately, it's very hard to, you know, the videos... You know, 94, it's not the best quality. Pretty good for the time period, but, you know, it's very hard to get any kind of clear shot of these things. It feels to me like they stumbled into an area that these things didn't want them, and they got chased off. That would be what I think. Anyway, that one's just, you know, that's one of the ones that I always go back to. It's one of my favourites. I remember seeing it years and years and years ago. So it's been around for a long time. Number 3. Okay, so this next one is actually a series of photographs that have been around quite a long time, and you may well have seen before. However, I also came across this little video, and I thought it'd be interesting to watch this first before we look at the pictures, because not only does this tie into the pictures, because at one point one of the guys shows a drawing that he's done, and it's quite similar to what you actually see in some of these pictures. But also, this story from 1952 is exactly the same story, pretty much. It's basically the same thing as the whole USS Nimitz encounter. You know, so this has been going on a long time.
The Navy flagship, the USS FDR.
The FDR.
Watched as a disc-shaped UFO hovered above them. 3 photographs were taken, and this sighting was just the first of many reported aboard the ship. Despite vehement denials from the Navy, many people who served on the USS FDR believe that she was a UFO magnet.
So you see, this is not just something that started happening recently. This has been happening to the Navy since the 50s, at least.
Sometime in late July, early August of 1952, as an ensign, I saw a bright light at the forward of the bow on the right-hand side, which would be the starboard side.
The ship was on a shakedown cruise near Gitmo, Cuba. And I was down below decks. It was maybe approximately 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, I think it was. And this buddy of mine, Vince, who's seen a bunch of men coming from the engine room compartment, running up topside on a ladder, said, "Red, why don't you go up there and see what's going on?" So I follow these guys up 3 or 4 decks up to the flight deck, and we were watching this little object, like a light, that was following our ship. And then it came out of the sky at us.
My friends called me to come outside, and we observed a bright light quite high in the sky. It looked like a star, but was much brighter. The light tracked at a high speed and came to a stop, altered direction, and accelerated to high speed, stopped again, and it proceeded across the sky in this manner until it disappeared into the moonlight.
These three men, Robert Coburn, Chester Grzinski, and John Lawrence, all served on the USS FDR. But each man was assigned to the ship on different tours, in different years, and with different jobs. And yet each man saw the same thing sometime during his service, an unidentified flying object tracking the Navy aircraft carrier through the sky. Others stood with them and witnessed the same events, which occurred over a 10-year period. But there is no record of any sightings in the ship's logs.
So, you know, this was going on for over 10 years with just this one ship. And then you're finding out years and years later that it's happening to ships now. It's just... And according to the Aero report, all these people are full of shit. According to the Pentagon, their own Navy personnel, going back all the way to 1952, can't identify anything. They're all idiots.
Attempts to find other eyewitnesses have failed.
I know that during September of '52, there were a series of incidents during Operation Main Brace, which was a series of naval maneuvers, military maneuvers with other countries. And during those maneuvers, there were a number of UFO incidents reported. One occurring in connection with a fighter jet, which had been followed by an unidentified flying object.
It's the same story as the Nimitz.
Director of Cause, Citizens Against UFO Secrecy. He is also the co-author of the UFO Cover-Up. Greenwood has collected photographs of UFOs taken in 1952 from the deck of the flagship for Operation Main Brace. They were taken aboard the USS Franklin D. Roosevelt.
On September 20th, a newspaper reporter was on the flight deck of the carrier and a color camera with him. And he said he turned down the flight deck and noticed a group of guys looking up into the sky. He ran down there and noticed a large spherical object hanging in the air. Everybody was looking at it, so he had his camera. He decided to take some shots. And when he ran the exposures, he said the object accelerated, took off at high speed, disappeared. They thought it was a balloon initially. So the brass called the various
good old balloons
in the area, asked about a balloon. Nobody launched a balloon.
Of course they didn't.
Nobody knows anything about it. They listed it as an unknown. Possible balloon, but nobody knows where it came from.
Good old balloons.
It's quite obvious that we had seen something. We don't know what it was. We knew that it couldn't be an airplane because an airplane could not start and stop. The rate of speed was too high, too fast for a helicopter, and it was too erratic a pattern track for a weather balloon.
Leon Treadwell also served on the USS FDR in the 1950s. He recalls a UFO encounter he witnessed, along with several other men, while on anchor watch in Rio de Janeiro.
Two ships,
another hotspot,
or appeared to be ships, one above the other, maybe about...
How can you not believe this man? Seriously, he's clearly a legend. He's basically a pirate.
Separated the two of them, and the counter-rotating lights. And all of a sudden a fireball dropped between the upper ship to the lower ship. Nobody knew what the devil was going on. There was actual radar contact.
Yeah, they got it on radar.
Vehicles.
This painting depicts what Leon claims he and several other sailors saw on...
Now, you just remember this. I know it's not the clearest, but just remember like this, you know, this general image and the fact they get like some sort of fiery phenomenon going on, and that is very similar to the previous footage we just looked at. And also, you'll notice as more and more time goes on, we find out that the ocean seems to be the place where these things are seen the most. And, you know, that ties back into the other clip. It's also going to tie back into these photos.
On board the USS FDR that night.
Several officers and these are representatives of divisional departments. They couldn't believe what they were looking at. Everybody signed a release statement that nobody outside of CIC would say anything about this for at least 15 to 20 years.
The CIC, the Combat Information Center, is master control for any Navy aircraft carrier. Here is where radar, mapping, target searches, and operations are conducted.
We were just told to not say anything about this to anybody outside of Combat Information Center.
The commander down in Virginia, when I was discussing.
Now you see, these guys, you know, all these people aren't lying. And according to the Aero report, basically, all this stuff is either, you know, black budget or Russian or Chinese. They're basically saying it's, you know, natural stuff, misidentification, or Russian and Chinese. I don't think the Russians or the Chinese had this kind of stuff back in 1952. You know, they can't use drones as an excuse because that's another popular one. So all they had back then was probably a balloon, mate. Must have been a balloon. But these guys are not idiots.
Discussing this with him, he was on a ship. He told me that I wasn't even supposed to mention this. I just ignored what he said. It's one of my desires in life is to find these other witnesses that were up on that flight deck with me witnessing this object as it came on top of the ship. There are a lot of times I wish that this would have never happened because all the aggravation has caused me. I had people that laughed and said, "You wouldn't believe me?" Really? Yeah, I was there.
That is absolutely true. I can tell you that, you know, most days I feel incredibly lucky to have seen the things that I've seen, but some days it makes me very sad and angry because you're just left with nothing but questions, and it doesn't seem like you're ever going to find the answers to them, and nobody does believe you. They, you know, ridicule you, and basically, you know, it can have a very detrimental effect on your mental health. That's what I'm saying.
I was there, I seen it. You weren't there. You don't know. You don't know what it was like.
But why
exactly.
An unidentified flying object of this Earth or any other spend nearly a decade tailing this particular ship? Crewmen claim that the FDR carried advanced nuclear weaponry that was supposedly top secret.
The sighting was well known to insiders in the government at the time. It was written about by the head of Project Blue Book after he retired from the military, and he described it in great detail.
There's a possibility that our weapons were of a sort that they were interested in. Of course, the carrier carried all kinds of different weapons.
The FDR was the only aircraft carrier at the time that had thermonuclear capability. It was the only one that was allowed to carry the H-bomb.
We would be the only ship, naturally, that would carry them because we would have the only method of delivering the atomic bombs.
Since World War II, there have
you see, again, it's the same story as the Nimitz, because if I recall correctly, they started noticing these things when they had a upgrade to their radar system. And it's not necessarily that these things started showing up because they had an upgrade to their radar system, or even that the radar system itself just suddenly let them start seeing these things, but that is a possibility. Who knows? I believe the Nimitz is also a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. It just seems like they have an interest in anything nuclear-related. But it is interesting how similar these two stories are.
Been a number of UFO sightings linked to nuclear storage and transport facilities. But these reports remain unsubstantiated, in large part because the government organization best equipped to investigate the sightings, the U.S. military, refuses to do so.
I think they are probably covering up the incidents with the FDR because they're covering up all incidences of UFO sightings.
I won't rest till I find somebody else that was on that flight deck with me to witness that same thing I did.
Well, anyway, if you'd like to go and watch that video yourself, it's on Finding UFO. Very good channel. So anyway, this brings me, this one's kind of a 2-for-1, if you like. Because this brings me to the USS Trepang photos. And This is the article about it on the Black Vault. And I know, guys, alright. Absolutely come and check this out yourself. But, right. These are the photographs. And just look how similar this is to what those guys were describing. Right, these photographs were taken on the USS Trepang, which was well, allegedly taken. Which was a nuclear submarine, I believe. A submarine at any rate. Supposed to be in the Arctic region. And I believe it was actually in that region at the time. But yes, anyway, these photos were supposed to be taken from a submarine. Way out in the Arctic, I believe. I mean, official photograph not to be released. This as well. I mean, this again. Look how similar this one looks to the clip we're going to look at next. It's bonkers. I mean, what is that? And again, the common debunk for these pictures is that it's targeting balloons. Where does that debunk actually come from? Well, that comes from this article on the Black Vault. Mysteriously, that's where that theory was originally put forward. And that seems to be everybody's going, oh, it's target balloons. However, there's also evidence right on this page in this article that pretty much proves that that isn't the case. I mean, look, how... I'm not sure, right, that's the same picture. But how does something go from this... to this sort of... triangle-y shape to this... and then to this... It's absolutely nuts. This is... it's not a targeting balloon. I genuinely think, especially as time's gone on, because these have been around a long time, but I think these are genuine photos of whatever it is. And there is some other photos here. However, these appear to be from a different source, and I could well believe that these actually are targeting balloons, because that's what it looks like. And I would suspect that these were released in conjunction with the other photos to kind of discredit them. I mean, that does look similar to the picture of a targeting balloon. Also odd. I mean, I buy those could be targeting balloons, but these pictures, no. Definitely not. I mean, these are the original pictures that were in, I believe it was a French magazine. Those first ones were just better, more high definition scans of them. The original pictures, I believe. Yeah, not from the magazine. But, just... Again, it's one of those, when I first saw them, there's just something about them that gives you that uneasy factor. Humans, we're good at picking up on stuff. We don't always know why. It doesn't always make logical sense, but sometimes feelings are right. And I've always felt there's something to these photos. Now, here we go. I mean, this is some good fact-checking by Mr. Greenwald. They tracked down the admiral that was on it. Fact, it's in the right place. The other guy that was supposedly on the ship was also on the ship. As I said, I encourage you to go and read this whole article yourself. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But the important bit for me that stood out was that they actually managed to speak to the admiral, who would have been on board this submarine at the time, and they showed him the photos. And right here it says, both men were indeed on the Trepang SSN 674 In March of 1971 in the Arctic, Admiral Sackett denied seeing anything unusual while on board the Trepang. He gracefully took 2 phone calls from Steve and checked out the pictures that we sent him privately. He could not identify what was in the pictures. Right, now if the Admiral who was on the submarine says, yeah, I don't know what they show, then it's not a targeting balloon, because he would have just said, yeah, it was a targeting balloon. We were running training exercises. It's just a targeting balloon. Several of them, that's why they look different. But no, the fact that he said he could not identify what was in the pictures tells me that he's just not willing to say what's in the pictures. But, he probably can't identify what's in the pictures because he doesn't know what it was. He just knows that they saw this thing, took photos of it. Now, and he's got every right to, uphold the oaths he took and not confirm or deny. He just simply said he doesn't know what they show. So if they were targeting balloons, I'm fairly certain that he would have just said, yeah, they're targeting balloons. So pretty much that, for me, proves that these are not target balloons. I mean, absolutely bonkers. Some of the best pictures ever. And I genuinely think they are legitimate. Number 2. Okay, so number 2 is the Kumburgaz Turkey Ufo. Now, this is one you've probably heard of, but what seems to go unnoticed by a lot of people is the fact that this same bloody thing was recorded over multiple years, from 2007, 2008, and I believe all the way up to 2009 it was also recorded. Now, we're going to actually, I'll link this video in the description. This is all the footage stabilised. It's 35 minutes long. There's so much of it. And forward to a little bit of the analysis. Like I say, go and watch the full footage for yourself. But
the camera myself, and
the fact that you can see these things inside it,
went to university in Istanbul.
It is crazy. I'm trying to find what this looks like. Yeah, you see, I mean, what is that, guys? What is that? There's 2 of them in there. It's your classic grey. Now, I have seen people try and debunk this as being like the bridge of a cruise ship, and again, it's some sort of water-based mirage where it's just playing trick on you and you can only see the top of, the bridge, and these are humans in the bridge. Try harder with your debunks. And also, this is something else I noticed, which I don't think I've seen pop up before. Look at this, what this ship, UFO, UAP, whatever you want to call it, looks like. Okay, now go back to, where is it? Let's make sure we get the higher definition. Is it just me, right? Is it just me, or is this a ridiculously, just another crazy similarity? I think, yes, okay. It's just very, very similar. Very, very similar. But anyway, I'm sure you're all familiar with this one. I just thought it'd be fun to take a look at it, because I've not seen that interview with the guy that captured it. I don't see it mentioned very often that this same thing was filmed over multiple years, and also the fact that it looks very similar to this photograph. It's just one of the best examples, which is what we're here for. Number 1. Okay, so this last piece of footage and the number one on my personal list is this clip, and I don't know what the original name of the clip is. I've seen it referred to as the Flyby quite often, but I've also seen another clip that was referred to as the Flyby, so I think sometimes they get confused. Just look how similar this is to our first clip, you know, that first UFO from 1998 in Somerset. Look how similar it is. Just certain clips stand out to me as, you know, oof, there's something that makes you really, really uneasy about that. It just gets you right in your, oh, I don't like that. This definitely ticks that box. If I was in the, I mean, I don't like flying anyway, but if I was in that plane, I would be absolutely bobbing my pants. Just imagine for a second you're the guy sat in there filming this. Mate. Now, I don't think the audio is the original audio. It does appear to have been added on at some point. Perhaps somebody's filming a screen or something like that. It's a very short clip, but this is one of the most compelling close-up videos I've ever seen. You know, particularly when it comes up like that and you just get a good look at the underside of it, and it's like, oh, like, it just, oh, I don't know, it just makes me uneasy, man. I would be prepared to bet serious money that this is actually legit footage. It's just something about it. Wow. And again, like I say, very, very similar to that first clip. So, anyway, it's probably been quite a long video, this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've somehow made it all the way to the end, please subscribe. Please subscribe. I'm at the time of recording this, I think I'm about 32 subscribers away from hitting 4,000 subscribers. So please, if you're still here, please subscribe. It means the world to me. I love the discussion around all this kind of stuff. So please, you know, let me know your theories in the comments. And as always, have a nice day.